Hello, welcome to Best MMA Picks. Once again, I am your host, JD, and we are live here with our second rebroadcast of UFC Tampa, UFC on Fox number 19, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. And I've got four predictions here for the main card, four fights in the main card. This will be taking place here 2 weeks from now, I believe. Actually, yeah, Saturday, April 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Very exciting card. Lots of really good fights, including good fights on the prelims as well as fight pass prelims. So, got a whole loaded card here for everybody. Very excited. Should be a really good one. But let's just get down to our predictions. Unfortunately, we've had some major issues with audio. So I went ahead and I purchased a brand new microphone, and I hope that I'm coming in loud and clear for everybody. Um, I'm going off of a Yeti Blue, or a Blue Yeti, excuse me, and seems to be pretty good on the quality. But now I'm having issues with my internet connection. So there's some interference going on with a few electronics that are here in the building that I'm at. Hopefully, we don't get any drop connections here, as it is late at night. Should have a pretty good stream, and hopefully everything goes smooth from here on out. I really was frustrated this week with that, but hopefully we can iron out the wrinkles. I'm actually in process of getting a dedicated 250 meg connection here set up within the next couple of days, so shouldn't be any problems from here on out. Thank you for all those who did bear with us, and let's get down to our card. One thing before we do anything else, make sure that you add us and subscribe. Definitely, you're going to want to have access to our videos in the future and know when there are new ones coming out. We do cover a lot of other topics, and we'll be covering more topics in the future regarding gambling, MMA fights, as well as bankroll management, several other topics. So do subscribe below, if anything, before you do anything else and before you view any more of this video. Hit the subscribe button. Also, the other thing that I want you to do is add us to our Twitter, add us to your Twitter at Best MMA Picks. That's where all the action happens. That's where we release all our free picks come fight card. So add us there. And so here we go. Let's get this kicked off with our first fight of the night, or our first fight of that night. Rose Namajunas versus Tecia Torres. This fight right here is between two very talented strikers and grapplers. Rose Namajunas has a black belt in Taekwondo as well as a black belt in karate. She also holds a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She has very slick submissions, very good ground game, very slick transitions. Tecia Torres, on the other hand, you compare the two of these fighters, very interesting fight because they both hold black belts in both hold black belts in karate and in Taekwondo. So very similar styles with the striking. Tecia Torres also has some striking credentials within Muay Thai. She has a standing amateur record of 16-4 for Muay Thai. So she's got some experience there. Both these fighters are great strikers. They have power in their hands. Tecia Torres might have a little bit of an advantage on the feet, but I would probably put this evenly matched on the feet. Maybe it's hard to say who's going to have the advantage here. But I think Tecia Torres might have a little bit more power. Rose might have a little bit more technical striking. On the ground, there's a slight advantage, and with transitions would go to Rose Namajunas for transitions and also for having a little bit higher level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Although one might argue that Tecia Torres also, I mean, she's never really been finished. So this is definitely going to be an interesting fight. For me, I have kind of a bold prediction with this one. I think that Rose definitely, since she has lost to Tecia Torres once already on Ultimate Fighter, I definitely feel like she's going to come back strong, and she's going to have kind of a chip on her shoulder and something to prove here. The odds makers do also agree with that. with her almost being favored 2-1 in this bout. The odds on Tisha Torres, I believe she was like a positive 165, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she's 165 if you look here. And, you know, those odds are really actually pretty favorable. And it's very tempting to take those odds as an underdog play. But for some reason, I just feel like Namajunas is going to get this one done this time. Even though the odds are really expensive to follow. So my prediction here for this one is for Rose Namajunas to defeat Tisha Torres, possibly by finish. I would think a finish. I think she wants to put her away. She's going to have something to prove here. She's proved it. You know, she came out in dominant fashion against Paige Van Zandt, and I don't see her doing anything different here. I think she's going to put on a very dominant performance again. So, yeah, I do see a finish here, probably late second round. So my prediction here is to see Rose Namajunas be the first one to defeat and to finish Tisha Torres late second round by submission. One thing to note, she's finished all of her victories by submission, 100% of them. And Tisha Torres has all of her fights finished by decision. She's finished she hasn't finished any fights. She's been a pure decision fighter. So very interesting there. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but I do believe Rose Namajunas is going to come out very strong with this performance and hopefully get the win. Next fight, we have Lyoto Machida versus Dan Henderson. Both these guys have actually fought each other before. I believe it was Lyoto that got the decision in this one. Kind of was actually a more boring fight than what a lot of people would think it was going to have been. This one, I don't see anything different happening here between these two guys. Both of them have some mileage on them. Lyoto is definitely, he's got mileage now. He's gotten knocked out a few times. His chin's been tested, and he's been tagged quite a bit lately. Got knocked out by elbows on the ground by Yoel Romero not too long ago. And just hasn't kind of really been his normal self. He looked really good at middleweight for a while. And then he kind of just, I don't know. He's kind of regressed a little bit. Dan Henderson also, he's lost, I think it was like 4 out of his last 5 fights or something along those lines. He did get a win recently over Tim Boetsch, and then he followed that win up with a loss to Vitor Belfort. So, he's kind of alternating wins and losses, but Henderson's also always a dangerous fighter, no matter who he fights. He has that legitimate one-punch knockout power. Lyoto Machida has knockout power, but against a guy like Dan Henderson, it's going to be pretty tough for him to put him away. And Lyoto has not always been the most aggressive, and he has not always focused on finishes, even though he definitely has the ability to finish guys. It just kind of depends on how aggressive Lyoto comes out in this fight. I don't see anything different happening, though, from the last fight, other than Lyoto possibly tagging Henderson, but I see it more going the way of a technical decision for Lyoto. And Dan Henderson, the only method of victory for him that I see here is a KO, because Lyoto's just too fast, and I think he's going to dart in and out, pick him apart with strikes. Lyoto's the black belt in Shotokan karate, so he's used to playing that game of tag, and he's really good at it. And Dan Henderson's more of a brawler, likes to get in your face, tie you up, sometimes take people down, but mainly just try to lay that heavy leather on you. And I don't know that he's going to be able to do that here with Lyoto. So my prediction here is for Lyoto to Machida to defeat, and for this fight to go the distance to defeat Dan Henderson by decision, just like the last fight. He'll outstrike him, outpoint him, possibly even tag him. Could get a TKO, but I see that more likely scenario being a decision. And also a possibility for an underdog play on Dan Henderson. It really, if he hits and connects with Lyoto's chin at least once, more than likely Lyoto is going down and he's going to go to sleep. So there's always that possibility there. Dan Henderson is also very talented striker, and he can get the job done there with, that one punch knockout. So never sleep on Dan Henderson. Next fight, we've got Glover Teixeira versus Rashad Evans. Sugar Rashad Evans. Both these guys have identical records at 24-4. Both these guys have finished opponents. Glover being the one who finishes more guys at 63%. Glover throws and lands more significant strikes at almost double that of Rashad Evans. Rashad's last fight against Ryan Bader, I just was not impressed by the way that he fought. Very tentative, did not throw hardly anything at all. Just kind of stood there and was basically a human punching bag for Bader, although one might argue that I'm being a little, critical there. Rashad definitely had some rust, ring rust, as a lot of people like to say. His grappling is really, he hasn't used his grappling in an offensive manner, more of in a defensive manner. Glover, if he does try to take Glover down, Glover definitely has the ability to go up against good grapplers. He's done this, he went against John Jones. He's fought, the who's who of grapplers and has been able to take guys down that are good grapplers. So I don't see him being intimidated at all by that. I see Rashad being a little bit difficult to hit, but seeing how his performance was against Bader, he was very hittable. Not like his normal self, where he is definitely, evasive. Evans just did not look really all that great. And hopefully he comes back here and rebounds, but I don't see it going his way here with Glover. I see Glover definitely picking up a victory here, possibly by TKO, but more than likely by decision. But Rashad definitely, Rashad's hard to put away. So it's kind of interesting, see how this one plays out. But my prediction here is for Glover Teixeira to defeat Rashad Evans by TKO, possibly late second round. Next and the last main event fight, Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov versus Tony El Kokoi Ferguson. This is a fight I'm actually really looking forward to. Khabib he's a European Dagestani Russian fighter with the bread and butter wrestling credentials that just about nobody out there can really compete with. I mean, this guy he has a grappling laundry list of credentials. He was a Sambo world champ. He's got a master's in hand-to-hand combat. He was the European champion of Russian Army hand-to-hand combat, combat Sambo Russian national champion. He also he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu no-gi world champion. I'm not sure what belt that was that he was a world champion with, but no doubt he was a part of the NAGA tournaments. He also holds a black belt in judo, as well as a master's of sports in pankration. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. And he's had a very long layoff, 2 years since he's fought, last time in April 2014, which he had a completely dominating performance over the current lightweight champion, Rafael Dos Anjos, and just ragdolled him, just like he does everybody else. And that's kind of his bread and butter, is that Olympic, caliber wrestling that the Dagestani fighters all kind of possess. But he has his at another level, and that judo base of his makes it impossible for people to take him down. He has an 83% takedown defense, and that's against good wrestlers and good grapplers. Averages 7.0 takedowns, or 7.09 takedowns. Holds the UFC record for most takedowns against a guy who's actually got pretty good takedown defense with Abel Trujillo, and who also has legitimate power. So Khabib's definitely not intimidated by guys that can throw leather. Tony Ferguson is kind of a different fighter, though, and kind of a bad matchup, in my opinion, with all of his weird, unorthodox strikes and feints. Ferguson reminds me he has a lot of that darting in and out movement, unorthodox striking and feints from weird angles, similar to the way in which Dominic Cruz fights. And I really like the movement of Tony Ferguson on the feet. Just a little worried about him if it goes to the ground. However, Tony Ferguson's very slick with submissions, and he can lock in a sub at any time with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Guy's not intimidated at all for the fight to go to the ground. And he has a way of being very slippery. He has some wrestling credentials of his own. He was a national wrestling champion in it was an NCWA. He was a third place and finalist 2 years. He also holds a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. So he does have some credentials with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that most other fighters don't have. He's not quite a black belt yet, but he is a brown belt. Trains out of Ventura, California, 76-inch reach. And so we've got kind of a difference with a couple sources here with the reach. Excuse me. A couple places have reported 64-inch reach with Khabib and a 76-inch reach with Ferguson. On the UFC website here, it only has a 1-inch reach advantage, which if you look at both these fighters' pictures, it's definitely not accurate. Ferguson's arms look way longer than Khabib's. And so somebody, I think, was saying there was like a 12-inch reach advantage on one of the forums that I was reading. I don't know if it's that big of a reach advantage, but definitely there's some inaccuracies within several different websites on these people, between these two fighters' reach. So I would probably put this one at like around 6-inch reach advantage, but I could be wrong there. If anyone can confirm that, please do leave comments on the, in the video below, within the comments field. Yeah, these two guys, this is a really exciting fight. I'm really excited to see these guys fight. It's really hard for me to tell where this is going to go exactly. If I'm going to go with the dominance factor, got to go with Khabib to get this one to the ground. But Ferguson is very slippery, and I see him getting back on his feet rather quickly, if not trying to like sink in his sub, from the ground. Can't count out Khabib and his black belt in judo, though. He's going to be able to defend just about anything you throw at him. And I'm not thinking that Ferguson's going to be able to lock in his sub. The more likely scenario that I see here is Ferguson, with his unorthodox striking, holding a pretty good advantage on the feet there. And I see him tagging Khabib a couple of times, possibly tagging him to the point where he gets a knockdown, and at that point locking in a quick sub from the knockdown. That's one way I could see Tony Ferguson winning. The other way that I see this fight going is Khabib grinding out another decision with his wrestling and judo, similar way that he always does with most fighters. So that's how it's going to go down in one of two ways, and I see Ferguson more than likely getting a finish here. And it's a bit of a bold play, but I don't trust the long layoff with Khabib. He is a very hard worker, though, and he's going to come. He's not going to take a fight, that's going to, be a bad matchup for him. So my prediction here is for Tony Ferguson to defeat Khabib Nurmagomedov by submission. And that's very unlikely scenario, but that's how I feel like it's going to go down. I feel like he's going to tag him and lock in his sub. So that about wraps it up for the main card predictions. I'm going to do quick gut picks for you guys because I believe 70% of the time your gut is what's correct. A lot of my times I've named leans out that I thought were going to be good, and I never made them official picks, and I should have gone with my gut. So for the first fight, we're going to go from the prelims up. I've got Elio Zaleski dos Santos versus Mario Akmedov. I'm going with Akmedov here being the Dagestani fighter. I think he's got really good wrestling and striking. I think he's going to get this one done. He's more experienced against UFC caliber competition. So Mario Akmedov to defeat this guy probably by, I'd say TKO. Granted, keep in mind all these gut predictions are just gut predictions, and there's absolutely no handicapping behind them. So keep that in mind. Don't be betting these without doing your own due diligence. Next fight, Drew Dober versus Islam Makhachev. Another Dagestani fighter on this card versus the USA wrestler slash brawler, Drew Dober. I got to go with Drew Dober on this one. I think he had a pretty good performance his last fight. Been impressed with the way he's improved, especially against UFC caliber competition. Makhachev, I just worry a little bit about that chin, especially after that his first loss. I'm not sure how that affected him mentally. So I got to go with Drew Dober here, although some might disagree with me. Drew Dober to defeat Islam Makhachev by TKO. Next fight, Cesar Ferreira versus Kyle Magalhães. Got to go with Magalhães here, even though I think he is on a layoff. I'm not sure how long it was. Haven't handicapped this at all. Ferreira has definitely been regressed, so Magalhães by decision. Next fight, we have Randy Brown, Rude Boy versus Michael Graves. Got to go with Graves here. He's never lost. Neither of these guys have lost, but I think Michael Graves, being an Ultimate Fighter, definitely has an advantage here with experience, and I think that's going to show through, especially with this grappling. So I think he's going to get the better here of Randy Brown, get him to the ground, and grind out a decision. Michael Graves by decision. Next fight, we've got Court McGee versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I see Court McGee out cardioing. Is that a verb? Cardioing Santiago Ponzinibbio. Santiago Ponzinibbio has slowed down in later rounds in a lot of his fights, and he does get tired. So Court McGee by decision here. Next fight, Betch Correia versus Raquel Pennington. Got to go with Rocky Pennington here. She's improved dramatically with her, just about every aspect of her game. Betch Correia, after the Ronda Rousey loss, I'm not sure how that's going to affect her. Maybe worth it to look at an underdog play with her, but got to go with the favorite here, Raquel Pennington, defeat Betch Correia by TKO. Next fight, John the Magician Dodson versus Manny Gamburyan. I see nothing short of John Dodson dominating this fight due to his speed and power advantages, and it's going to stay on the feet all day long. So I got to go here with John Dodson to defeat Gamburyan by decision. Next fight, I've got Cub Swanson versus Hakran Diaz. Cub Swanson's been on aggression. Hakran Diaz has kind of been neutral, maybe even on an upswing. Both these guys have similar records. Both these guys have very good experience. Cub Swanson has it's more of a mental issue with fights. When he's in a good mental state, he fights really well. When he's in a bad mental state, he fights very poorly. Hakran Diaz is pretty neutral mentally, and I think the mental game here is gonna be what wins him this fight. And it's gonna be a very close one, but I think Hakran Diaz he's gonna get the better of the clinch, and he definitely has gotten the power advantage here. Although one might argue that I just think that he's got better range. He's got a reach advantage, and he also has very powerful leg kicks. So going with Hakran Diaz to defeat Cub Swanson by decision. And the last fight for our gut picks, got Beneil Dariush versus Michael Chiesa, Maverick, who's actually from one of my hometowns, Spokane, Washington. My heart will be with Chiesa. However, I believe Dariush is just too good of a fighter and too improved of a fighter. He's got very high Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu credentials. He also has very good striking that he's improved on and continues to work on. I like the work ethic of this guy. I think he's humble. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's going to get this one done by a decision. And that about wraps it up, guys. I'm very sorry for all the technical difficulties, and I hope that this benefits some of you out there. Bear with us here. We're undergoing some changes. There will be some exciting things coming up. We may be opening a t-shirt store and some other merchandise. Should be coming here in the near future. And a couple other announcements that will be made here in the near future. So stay tuned. Got some cool stuff coming up. And thank you for tuning in today. Everybody have a great week and enjoy the fights this weekend. Make sure you watch our other video that we did post prior to this. It's the Ben Rothwell versus Junior Dos Santos UFC Zagreb video. We posted our predictions for that as well. And as always, at our Twitter, we have several different social medias. All the links are in the description below. Leave us a comment. Leave us your predictions if you feel so obliged. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. and good night.